Hello and welcome back to the second part of this double sketchbook spread. If you haven't seen the first part yet, I've left the link in the description below. You can watch that one first, or you can watch this one and go back to that one later. There's really no right or wrong order. In this part, I'm continuing with the second day of these daily sketches from October 2024, and now I'm starting by outlining my watercolor palette with ink. That was a sketch that I have done in pencil first, so now I'm just adding the outlines. And then after the wall outlines, I'm going to add the colors exactly as they appear on my palette that day, as you can see on the right side of the screen. And this is something I really enjoy recording my sketchbooks. Sometimes inspiration doesn't have to come from grand subjects or exotic places. It can be simple as, painting a watercolor palette or a cup of tea or something you notice during your morning walk. I've learned over the years that ordinary moments often make the most meaningful pages. So now I'm painting these beautiful hydrangeas. I spotted them while walking my daughter to school that morning, and they were growing in someone's garden. And I thought they looked so lovely. I took a photo, and when I got home, I knew I wanted to include them in my sketchbook. For this drawing or painting, whatever you want to say, I'm going straight in with watercolor without any ink outlines. I started with very light washes and gradually build up the colors in layers, adding darker shades as I go. And then I painted the leaves in the same way. Because it was autumn, the flowers and the leaves, they were starting to change color. And the leaves particularly, they had this touch of red and browns in the tip of the leaves, and it looked so lovely. And I needed to paint it then, also because I love hydrangeas. It's one of my favorite flowers, so that inspired me to paint then and add to the sketchbook. So looking back, I realized that I spent a lot of time experimenting with different approaches. Sometimes I would use first ink. I would start with ink first and then add watercolor, and sometimes I would start with watercolor and then add some ink later on, or sometimes just watercolor like I'm doing now with the hydrangeas. Some pages they have more of a loose style and sketchy, and others were more details and illustrative, like this one. But honestly, I think experimentation is very important. I know many people worry about finding their style, but I think in my experience, style develops naturally over time, and you don't really find it by searching it. I think you discover it by showing up, practicing, making mistakes, and trying things out, and simply allowing yourself to play. When you do all that on a daily basis or regularly with consistency, you are going to discover your style, because you are going to see repetition of the things you like to do it on all your sketches and pages. Maybe not in the beginning, but after a while you are going to see that repetition, and then you'll see, oh, that's the thing that I like to do, that's the style I like to do it. So I made plenty of pages that I didn't particularly like it, and many times I thought something wasn't working. but those pages taught me just as much as the good ones. This whole spread feels more illustrative than a sketch, because at that time I was exploring different styles with different mediums, and for those pages I decided to lean into a more detailed approach. But you could do something completely different. You could simply add a few ink lines and a touch of color, because that's the beauty of keeping a sketchbook. There are no rules, nobody's grading you, right? It's your place to experiment and enjoy the process. And I think that sometimes I wish I had understood earlier in my own journey. For a long time, I thought every page had to be perfect, but perfection can really stop us from growing. Once I started giving myself permission to make mistakes, I found that I enjoyed sketching much more. Now you saw that I filled my palette with all the colors, and that this part was quite straightforward because I was just copying what was actually there. I was painting the colors on the palette, and now I'm painting the colors that I mixed on the palette. You know, that build up on the lid of the palette. So there were loads of muddy mixtures and interesting combinations, and I thought it would be fun to record those as well. I remember this being such a lovely rainy day. I stayed indoors and spent most of the day painting. I was painting flowers that day, working on other illustrations as well, and just enjoying being creative. So I wanted to visually capture that day in my sketchbook. And that's another thing I learned. Creativity doesn't always happen in big bursts. Sometimes it's built in small moments. 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. Those little sessions add up over weeks, months, and years. When I first started sketching and painting with watercolor, I certainly didn't imagine where the journey would take me. I began with simple materials, made lots of mistakes, and had many moments of frustrations, but consistency really does make a difference. You don't have to create masterpieces every day. You just have to keep showing up. Now, as you notice, I move it to the last sketch, the last part of the page, which is inspired by the leaves I saw scattered along the pavement during my morning walk. I filmed a short clip because I knew I want to paint it later. So the composition in the sketchbook is a bit different from the video. I simplified and focused mostly on the falling leaves with the yellow, orange, and browns, and I added just a hint of the green hedge in the background. For this sketch, I wanted something much looser and simpler compared to the hydrangeas and the first page of the spread. I wasn't aiming for lots of details. I just wanted to suggest the shapes and colors and capture the autumn feeling without overworking it. And I think that's another lesson sketchbook teaches. Not every page has to be highly finished. Some pages are there simply to record a memory, to practice, or just to enjoy the process. Over time, all those pages become a record of your journey. And when you look back, you'll often be surprised by how much progress you have made. It's amazing what can happen when you keep showing up one page at a time, every day, or with consistent, whatever the time you have in your hands. Just keep the consistent, and doing that with the consistent, you are going to see progress. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this inspired you to pick up your sketchbook, to notice, all the beauty in everyday life, and not be afraid to experiment, make mistakes, and enjoy the process. You saw how I did, how my process worked, but you can find your own process by doing every day. I see you in the next video. Bye for now.